All right, good evening. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are Revelation of the Cross Ministries, the ROC. I'm your Pastor Anthony Board. Tonight, we'll be reading in its entirety in our time of study, Deuteronomy chapter 29. Um, you know how, here's a moment of transparency. You know how you don't really know how you look until you really see yourself. Shout out to those of you who are streaming live by YouTube and those of you who go to watch the replay. ROC family who are on Zoom with us right now. God bless you guys as well. But I'm letting my hair grow back, and it's a little fro-ish, and I'm wearing a dashiki today. I look like a freedom fighter for Africa. I don't. All right, okay. So if you see me chuckle every now and then, now you know. Now you know. I didn't know how it anyway. God bless you guys. We are we're glad to be with you today. All right. So without further ado, and there's something else here, and I uh not going to point it out, but I want to see if anybody will be able to pick it up, notice it. There's something that we've started to really do. Um, there's a difference in our Bible studies now compared to times before. And I don't know if y'all picked it up yet, but we're going to see. And the change is, I believe, is highly indicative or important to what God is saying about our day to day. I believe there's a connection, there's a divine connection to it. So I don't know if y'all going to pick it up or not, but if you have any ideas, you can put it in the chat room here on Zoom, or you can leave a comment on YouTube. See if you can pinpoint it. Those of you who have been watching the replay and excuse me, following us for some time. All right. So at this point right now in Deuteronomy chapter 29, um, God has given Moses the instructions to renew the covenant that God had with the children of Israel. So there's gonna be some moments here or there where it's gonna be some name calling. There's some pretty strong prophetic moments here as well, and we're gonna highlight those things as we go forward. All right. I'm gonna take breaks here and there to kind of break down some of the things that we got during the study. Okay, here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 29. I'm going to read from verse 1 to 6. And this is what it says. These are the terms of the covenant the Lord commanded Moses to make with the Israelites in Moab, in addition to the covenant he had made with them at Horeb. Moses summoned all the Israelites and said to them, your eyes have seen all that the Lord did in Egypt to Pharaoh, to his officials, to all his officials, and to all his land. With your own eyes, you saw those great trials, those signs and great wonders. But to this day, the Lord has not given you a mind that understands, or eyes that see, or ears that hear. Yet the Lord says, during the 40 years that I led you through the wilderness, your clothes did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. You ate no bread and drank no wine or other fermented drink. I did this so that you might know that I am the Lord your God. Strong stuff. And where I've been at lately in my time of study is just really connecting how it is applicable, or how it would translate to our day. You know, some of the things, some of the instructions and the guidance, the covenant that God gave the children of Israel, and how would it translate to our day? And so let's start with the name calling in verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 1. we read the name Moses. And Moses's name means drawn out son in the Hebrew language. Israelites was the next name mentioned, and it's translated to mean children of he who struggled with God. Now, y'all remember, because it has Israelites, that ITES, it's always going to translate to mean children of. It points to the children of a bloodline. So Israelites, children of he who struggled with God. If it was no ITES or ites at the end of Israelites and it's just Israel, it would be he who struggled with God. Okay. The next name mentioned was Moab. Moab was translated to mean from his father. Moab was translated to mean from his father. And then Horeb, as in the mountain, Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, is translated to mean heat and dryness. Heat and dryness. Okay. Continuing in verse 1 with what we picked up from verse 1, something stands out and it's pretty consistent through all the time that we've been studying about Moses and the children of Israel. One statement was made in verse 1. It was something like the Lord commanded Moses to make this covenant with the Israelites, make this covenant with the Israelites, something like that, where it was pointing out that it separated Moses from the Israelites. And throughout our time of reading about what Moses has been doing with God's chosen people, there's a constant distinction being made between Moses and the children of Israel. If y'all remember some time back or here and there, we'll point out how when Moses is relaying a message, he would say, the Lord your God, right? And it would be like, why not it be the Lord our God? It was a separation there. Moses was not, and this is still a working theory of mine. I'm still looking at some stuff to see how accurate it is, but Moses was not an Israelite or a child of Israel. And the reason why I say that is because I think more that just looking at how things happened for Moses and how things turned out for Moses, that he was more like a Levite, instead of an Israelite. Think about it. The Levites weren't promised the land. They didn't have a promise or claim to the land. God didn't promise the Levites the land that he promised to the children of Israel. And if you think about it, did Moses reach the promised land? No. And then all through their time, especially up until now, where we're reading Deuteronomy 29, there's still a distinction being made. He's God's messenger. He believes and serves the one true living God. However, when it comes down to nation, his nation apparently is not the children of Israel. He's leading them, but there's a distinction that's made between the two. And I just kind of want to briefly, with that note, allude to something that we're going to be talking about on Sunday when we come together in Germantown. When we come together in Germantown for our family and friends Sunday, it is something about, it's a big deal too, about how God sees in these last days. What is God thinking about us in these last days? It's yes, there will be prophetic moments and times and things like that. But I think to a certain degree, we have gotten so caught up in what has been prophesied about our last day that we kind of miss what God is saying about our last day right now. Like, not, predictive or forthtelling or sharing what happened in the past to get to this point. But what does God say about us right now? What is on his mind? What did he make his mind up about us right now? So I think more or less that's what we're going to get into. And I believe it seems that it has a direct connection or sentimental connection to how God separates these groups of people. So we got Moses, the children of Israel, the Levites, and then of course the foreigners and the strangers, right? That all came together. Everybody came together to serve the one true living God. Some of them, no doubt, pretended to serve the one true living God, and they just rolled with the children of Israel because they had no other option. They came and took over their land, destroyed the kingdoms, things like that, thwarted the people that got in the way. And they're like, this nation is rolling too strong. I'd rather go with them. I digress. Um, Moving on to verse 2. In verse 2, we read the name Egypt. And in the Hebrew language, Egypt is translated to mean trouble and oppression. In the Hebrew language, Egypt is translated to mean trouble and oppression. But then I want to go back and read verse 4 again. Verse 4, it says, but to this day, the Lord has not given you a mind to understand that understands, or eyes that see, or ears that hear. This is pertaining to the plans that God has, right? How to prophesy it and preach it. Eyes have not seen it, ears have not heard it, neither has it entered into the hearts of man what God has planned for you. In context with verse 4, this gives an indication of the ways God can speak to us clearly and we know his direction. It will be that moment where you'll know what to do because he's going to drop it on you. You'll suddenly understand it. There are a lot of people who are praying for direction, praying for guidance, praying for understanding, and it seems as if there's a continuation of that prayer. That we're constantly praying, Lord, help me for understanding in this area, help me for guidance and direction in this area. And it didn't drop yet. It didn't happen yet, but we're still praying for it in that area. Could it be possible that you're not supposed to have an understanding in that area because it's not a direction for you to go? Could it be possible that your eyes haven't seen it and your ears haven't heard it, and it has not reached your mental understanding because it's not something that pertains or is a part of what it is that you're supposed to do? Have you ever followed somebody into something partially because you wanted to be at a certain place? So you followed somebody or a group of people to a certain place to be a certain thing with no understanding. Eyes have not seen it, ears have not heard it. God did not drop on you the direction or the unction to move. You moved because you moved with the crowd. You followed the group. But God did not give you the understanding. You prayed about it, no doubt. Church people, we pray about stuff. And so no doubt you pray about it, but God still didn't give you the wisdom, the understanding, should I say, the understanding with the move. Whenever God leads or directs us, and that's what verse 4 is pointing to in a major way. Even if we have not seen the land, even if we have not seen the territory or the place where we believe that we're supposed to be, it starts. You know how we break down the strategy, the order. It starts with some level, some measure of divine understanding. God will drop on us some measure of understanding before our eyes can see it, before our ears can hear it. Let me just look at verse 4 more specifically. Yes, yeah. And I wanted, I go back to pointing out how things written in scripture are written in that way for a certain reason. So it has understanding first, and then it has eyes second, and then it has ears finally. Now, in our limited mindset, and how we do things, it's like kind of in reverse. We'll hear it first, we'll see it second, and then we'll understand it last. How do we, how can we say we understood a thing? Because we saw it and we heard it. And that's very humanistic in its strategy. How we, and that's how we know we're led by our senses, by ourselves, is because we saw it, we heard it, now we understand it. There are people who are making moves based off of what they see, what they hear, and then they reach and understand it. The way God does it is quite in reverse. He kind of shuffles the deck. He'll drop the understanding on you first, and then you'll see it, and then you'll hear it. So how does that look in regards to guidance or direction? You'll have an understanding that it's time to move. More than that, moreover, you'll, in having the understanding that it's time to move, you'll have an understanding that this is a God thing, and that there are certain questions that just won't be answered. But there will be guidance and direction. That's the understanding part. And from your ability to receive and believe that, the next thing that follows is seeing it. You know what? I wasn't even looking for it. I like to use new houses as an example. I wasn't even trying to look for a new house, or maybe I'm in the market for a new house, and just kind of, y'all know how we like to go online and just look at stuff and, just see, you get some type of unction or feeling, and you end up looking at a place way out. I like being in my business, way out. And it's like, that wasn't a part of my initial plan. That wasn't, we just looking for better, not way out. I got to be way out. But that's how God will do it. When he drops the understanding on you about the time and about the direction, then you'll see it. You didn't plan on what you saw. You get it? You didn't plan on even the direction that you will go, because it's a part of God releasing that level of understanding to you. And then the hearing part. What do you hear in this divine process, in this divine order? What do you hear? You hear peace. You hear the things that pertain to God's divine nature. For me personally, peace is a big deal. Uninterruptions, where I can breathe and relax. Peace is a big deal. And so for me, as well as it is suitable or conducive as a part of this process, the thing that you will hear is peace. Now, how do you hear peace? You hear peace by the silence. You hear peace by no noise. You hear peace by having yourself placed in a surrounding or an environment where you can think and not have to focus on watching or keeping guard. You can hear the place where you can let your guard down. There are a lot of us who can't get good night's sleep because we sleep with our guards up, wondering about what's going to happen in the middle of the night, wondering what's going to happen early in the morning, wondering about I have to do this, I have to do that. When we're referring to what God is doing in verse 4 and how it would translate into our day to day, you'll know that it's a part of the plan. And we only talking about moving from place to place. You'll know that it's a part of the plan where you can relax, where you can rest, where you have peace. Plot twist, it's the peace that passes all understanding. You don't know how it came about. You just know this is a place where you can rest. No stress, no frustration, no anxiety. You know this is where it's going. So these are the things that you hear. You hear silence. You hear the thing that would necessitate your ability to think and focus. Ooh, felt the glory to Jesus right there. Um, so let's look back at verse 6. Look at verse 6. Um, you ate no bread and drink no wine or other fermented drink. I did this so you might know that I'm the Lord your God. Keep in mind, children, that I'm reading from the NIV. Um, that really points to, in verse 6, it points to how they weren't allowed to have that more than enough. They weren't allowed to have that more than enough. Their cups didn't runneth over. Their cupboards weren't full. All those blessings that we would hear every now and then, and things taught on, so forth, so on. They weren't allowed it. Why? Why? Because God was positioning them to I'm probably going ahead of my notes, but God was positioning them to take everything, to have everything, to rule everything. He had to have them go through the time where they didn't have only but so much. They weren't allowed to splurge at that time. It's going to get a little funky with that. I'm going to say some stuff that some church people, what is it? Institutionalized church people may not like. Uh, so what? Um, they were at a point where they weren't allowed to splurge because they were working on living life, getting to know God. Here we go. When you're working in life with the primary purpose of you getting to know God, the way you will know him, you will find that there's not too much leeway into splurging. There's not too much leeway into having more than enough. It will be a time of sacrifice, dedication, obedience, and consistency. Notice how I didn't say worship, I didn't say praise. Worship and praise comes as an act of adoration, recompense, forgiveness, an atonement. Those things happen as a result of getting to know him. You cannot effectively or adequately or appropriately worship or praise God and you don't know him. You get it? So he comes and he has us in a point where we may experience what seems to be lack, seems to not have enough. I gotta tell some of you that is only a part of the plan because God is expressing, don't feel good, but he's expressing to you, he's led you into a place where you got to learn how to sacrifice, be obedient, be consistent. Get those three things down and watch what happens when you worship and praise. Now, the worship and praise that is expressing your adoration, it opens up the thing, guess what? That will cause you to now suddenly understand, see, and hear. So can we put that in order? But and I like to deal with the difficulty that come with it because I know I've been there more times than none, where it just seemed like, man, where is my money going? And then the Lord is like, sacrifice here, sacrifice there. You ain't got no room to splurge, Anthony. You can't have what you want. And I'm like, but Jesus, I'm looking at all these people around me. It seems like they getting everything. They got so much going on for themselves and getting what they want. They're able to give it to other people. They're not just doing for themselves, they doing for other people, and they ain't doing nothing for me, Jesus. And it's like a hurt piece at first, but then it's like you got to know where you are. If it seemed like you struggling, what they say, money look funny and change look strange, or like what we like to do in our household, Some of you NBA fans, LeBron James put that powder on his hand and he do that thing. That's like how that's how the money in the hand for a second and then it's been times like that. But picture having to this is I'm telling you, I'm hitting you with some wild and reckless stuff right now. Picture making payment arrangements so you can sacrifice for what God wants you to sacrifice for. Ooh, calling the bill collector. That's like, we about to shut y'all off. It was a case or two where it was like, we're about to put y'all out. Oh, can we be transparent? But our faith in God was so much so that we knew that we were in a time of sacrifice. And what you going to do? You're going to appease the creditors, the people that, yeah, you owe money to, but are you going to appease God first? And I kid you not, every time we submitted to that season of our life, there came a season of abundance every single time. And the season of abundance went much longer than the season of lack. This, or should I say, the season of challenge, the season of sacrifice, consistency, and obedience. And it did something to the worship aspect. And then we started to see what God's intentions were. We reached an understanding. And then we were able to see, and then we were able to hear. So I challenge you, especially those of you who are in that time, in that season, where it seemed like what James Fortune's song said, I got more bills than money. I challenge you to recognize and identify what season you're in. I challenge you to recognize that. Yeah, I know there's some people who is like, another pastor that's talking about giving some money. With everything in social media land right now, I feel you. I got it. I understand you. It's like, oh yeah, yet another thing that's been placed on leaders in the church, leaders in ministry, people who are sincere about God, yet another stigma, another thing to battle through that we got to deal with. If it ain't some sexual freak, nasty stuff going on amongst church leaders, it's something about messing with the people's morality and their money. I get it. I get it. But it does not take away from God's divine order and setting the precedent. Somebody has got to tell you the right thing regarding it. And I'm not scared to do it. But what I will not do, and I don't believe that the Lord will lead me to do it, lock the doors so you have to give no money. So anyway, moving right along. let's, let's read on the next couple of verses, please. Get on out of there. Uh, verse. Let's read from verse 7. Let's see here. Verse 7 to 15. Verse 7 to 15. When you reached this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out to fight against us, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. Do you see that? And I think I got something in my notes going back to there. Carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. All of you are standing today in the presence of the Lord your God, your leaders and chief men, your elders and officials, and all the other men of Israel, together with your children and your wives and the foreigners living in your camps who chop your wood and carry your water. You are standing here in order to enter into a covenant with the Lord your God, a covenant the Lord is making with you this day and sealing with an oath to confirm you this day as his people, that he may be your God as he promised you, and he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am making this covenant. That's interesting. This covenant with its oath, not only with you who are standing here with us today in the presence of the Lord our God, but also with those who are not here today. There's a lot in there. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start with the name calling part back in verse 7. Okay. And so we read the name Sihon, or I don't want to say Sihon because it sounds too much like Zion. I got to look at how that pronunciation is. But Sihon, and Sihon is translated to mean uprooting and eradicating. Uprooted and eradicated. I want you to think about plants or weeds being pulled up out of the ground and thrown away. Heshbon is translated to mean intelligence. Og, I remember when we first came across this, I said the OG. What was wrong with me, man? It's translated to mean baked bread. Baked bread. Bashan is translated to mean fruitful. It's translated to mean fruitful. In verse 8, we read Reubenites. Some of these things, for those of you who have been taking notes with us for some time, it's in your other notes, no doubt. Reubenites, children of the beheld sun. Gadites, children of happiness. Manasseh, the forgotten. Then we get to verse 9, right? Let me just make sure. Yes. Verse 9 was something important. I'm going to read that again. Verse 9, it says, carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. Now, remember what we just talked about regarding the season of the sacrifice, the consistency, and the obedience, right? The season of sacrifice, consistency, and obedience. It seemed like those three things are brought on us at times where we believe that we have less to do with, or we have less that we have to use for more. You get it? You know, we got so many things that we got to get done, but we don't have what seems like to be enough to get it done. That is the season where God is looking for sacrifice, consistency, and obedience. And then you'll watch your season change once you satisfied the requirement there. All right. So now, after enduring, according to verse 9, after enduring the time of only having some things, they are coming upon a time of having everything, where they were in a time where they were only allowed some things. And in this case, it was the bare necessities. They said y'all had clothes to wear, y'all had sandals, and y'all had some stuff to eat. Y'all had something to eat. You know, looking at some kids, I don't think maybe I was like that here and there, but you know, at times growing up, things were so scarce. Food was so scarce at times, not all the time, but at times, food was so scarce where it was like, whatever they decide to do, mom and daddy, whatever they decide to do, I'm eating. And I ain't gonna complain because I'm that hungry. But then there was some times where, shut up, T. There was some times where, uh, excuse me, somebody's laughing at me. There were times where it was like, it wasn't that place of like whatever they cook, I'm gonna eat. It was like, oh, that's what we having. Okay, I'm good. The hunger wasn't there. Here's my point. The hunger wasn't there. So whatever they were putting out for us to eat, it wasn't like I gotta have it because I'm starving, because I'm that hungry. And I asked somebody, where's your hunger? Are you that hungry person where God sets some things before you and you're so hungry that you'll take whatever you can get from God? Or have you had so much of a fill from man that when God presents you with the something that's going to be good for you, you too full of man's stuff that you can't receive God's stuff? Are you so full of the impression, the principles, the strategies, the wisdom of man, that when God seeks to bring things to your understanding, you can't receive it because you're so full of that other stuff? In your season where God is looking for sacrifice, consistency, and obedience, are you so full of man's stuff? And I ain't just talking about preachers, you know, I'm talking about people that you obligate yourself to. Are you so full of the obligation to other people that when it's your season of sacrifice, consistency, and obedience, you can't do any of those things because you're so full of catering to them, giving, sacrificing, being consistent, being obedient to them? Okay. In verse 9, God is like, after enduring that time and sticking with the plan of the covenant, stand in line with the covenant. Not only will I bring that level of understanding to you where you will see and hear clearly, but in doing so, you'll go from having something to having everything. I think that it's appropriate to say this, quote this here, that my God will supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. My God will supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. So if I got to go through a time where I have something, at least I got something, and I'm still sacrificing a portion of the something, that my day is coming where what's everything to me, I'm going to have it. When I get to that time where I progress to that time by satisfying the requirements of the time of somethingness, I'm going to enter into that time of everything. Now, please understand, what you would consider to be something or just enough or very little to you, or just enough to get by to you, may be everything to somebody else, and vice versa. What's everything to somebody may be, oh, that's just enough. Somebody can be so excited about moving into their new apartment, and it's everything to them. They're moving into their apartment, and then you show up where your something is a 3-bedroom house, and you show up to their 1-bedroom apartment, and you see that as something. But to that person, this is everything. You see that? Our places are different. Our places of living in times of something where God is looking for the sacrifice, consistency, and obedience is different from somebody else's time of something where God is looking for sacrifice, consistency, and obedience. You got one person over here that says, I ain't got no money. I have negative accounts. I don't have anything in savings. On this side, you got a person that's saying, I ain't got nothing. I don't have anything. But they got a savings account. You get it? Their checking account is not in a negative balance. You see what I'm saying? So there's something there, but for where that person is, and there's no knock there. I'm not saying this to judge or to say one is over the other, but it's just where we are. And a big part, kind of leading into what we're going to talk about on Sunday, and a big part of where we are is what God is attaining to, is what God is paying attention to. He sees you where you are. You may not be negative account person, but you still, and you may be a person who got a little something in the bank, but it still may be your time of something. You get that? It still may be a time of something. There's some people who don't even have an account, a bank account, and they still consider themselves not to be in that time of something. Why? They got somewhere to sleep. They got something to eat. They don't consider themselves. They wouldn't consider themselves to be in a time of something. They don't have anything that they want. There's no desire. We'll get more into that some time. But after, according to verse 9, but after you have embraced, according to the children of Israel, what Moses is telling them, after they have embraced the new covenant, this renewed covenant, and started to follow through and started to experience the release of the information, so they'll have an understanding, they can see and they can hear, then God will take them into possession of everything. Not everything for everything's sake, but it's everything that is everything to them. You get it? That God is, if I were to prophesy to you or prophesy to somebody and say, God is about to give you everything, it's only pertaining to that which is everything to the individual. It's not that God is going to give you theirs and yours, and you got, it's stuff that ain't even applicable to you, and you just got all this extra stuff sitting around and no, it's everything that's everything to you. So it could be that if God is saying to you right now, and I believe this is a prophetic moment as it's starting to click and come in clearly, that this is a prophetic moment, that for some of you that's getting an understanding of where you are, soon as you sacrifice, show the consistency, and be obedient, finally, that God is going to move you to the place where you will have everything, and that everything that is for you is, it could be, that thing of love. I want, that experience of true love where I don't have to put out anything to get anything in return. That love factor, that's everything to me. God is about to give you everything. You see that? I want to have the security of knowing that my children are okay. God is about to give you everything. If that's the everything for you, God is about to give you the everything. You see? There's so much, for some people, there's so much that I want to be. For somebody else, I want to be it, but for some reason I can't be it, and I struggle with being it. If you can sacrifice, be consistent, and be obedient, what's everything to you, if that is your heart's desire, then that is everything to you. And I'm telling you, God is about to give you everything. without you banging your head up against the wall and trying to figure it out and strategize on how to make yourself change, you're about to receive the blessing of everything. If that is everything to you, I need a new car. This is praise the Lord. I need a new car because mine is on the last wheels. And that's everything to me because I just want to be prepared. I want to be ready. I want to stay in the mode of consistency. And I want to go places and enjoy myself. If that's everything, if you can sacrifice, be consistent and obedient, that everything is coming. All right. So let's read on. Let's see. We went to yes. Yeah. I want to read verse 13 again. And there is some name calling, but then I kind of pointed out something. I saw something. Verse 13, to confirm you this day as his people, that he may be your God as he promised you, and as he swore to your fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. And just looking at that, let's do our name calling: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, father of nations, right? Isaac, he who laughs, right? And then Jacob, he who supplants or grabs the heel. All right. Now check this out. There, again, I can't help it but to just look at the patterns. Back earlier in our reading, I think in the first verse, or so, earlier in our reading, where we were talking about the understandings, the seeing, and the hearing. Now, I'm saying this out loud now, so help, be patient with me while I work through this. Abraham didn't see where he was going. He had an understanding of where he was going. Isaac had sight. He saw, but there were messages that he was waiting for that was needed. There were certain things that he needed to hear. Jacob heard. You see the connection? I don't know. I encourage you to go back and study that. I believe there's a connection there. Okay. Without trying to make it up. Okay. Let's read on. In verse 15, I think that's important. Well, 14 and 15. I'm making this covenant with its oath, not only with you who are standing here with us today in the presence of the Lord our God, but also with those who are not here today. For those who are not here today. Shout out to people who couldn't make it to Bible study today. No, I'm joking. I am. Ooh. You should say stuff like that, Pastor. Okay, God bless you. This new covenant, verse 15, was made also with those who died while submitting to the previous covenants. When they transitioned from the earth, when they died in covenant with God, however the covenant was with God at that time that they died. And so one of the things that I see that stands out here with that statement in verse 15 is that this is acknowledging not death, but the transferring of life. There's an essence that's there, and it's connecting with those people who died on this side or transferred life from this side to the other side while they were connected with God or in covenant with God. There's something significant about that. There's something very powerful about that. It's not a soul-saving thing, but it is an honorable thing. It is you know, I don't know how to say it. This might be a tinfoil hat, aluminum foil hat moment. Um, but could it be possible that those people who were there, who are no longer there, that wherever they ended up on the other side, however they ended up on the other side, this new covenant somehow affected them. This renewed covenant somehow affected them on the other side. And that leads me to this the notion, asking you to go light candles and call on your loved ones who are no longer on this side of life. However, but I'm thinking like, could it still affect where they are on the other side, what you do on this side? You know how we do things in the memory of, you know, let's hear things like your grandmother wouldn't want you to do that. You know, could it be possible that what we do on this side, had a thought, do on this side will somehow affect wherever they are on the other side? Like in my case, it would be real simplify it. Before my grandma passed, my first grandma, before she passed, um, she wanted to teach all of her grandsons her cake recipes. Wanted to teach us all how to bake cakes. I'm not 100% sure, but I think one of my cousins was the one that got it. But it was her goal that all of her grandsons knew how to bake. Could it be possible that something I'm getting from this moment in its simplicity is that maybe I should learn how to bake cakes, not to sell them or anything, but to kind of be to do it in honor of my grandma. That was something that she wanted all of her grandsons to do. And could it be possible that that's something that I would do to honor her? That in some way, in honoring her desire for us, it also honors her memory, but it also honors, she feels that there's a sense of honor. You get it? Wherever she is on the other side. Now, if your grandmom was a thug and she was like, get this money at any cost, you got to lie, cheat, steal, that don't speak to honor, the good kind. No, no. My grandma said, you know, somebody talk to you crazy, you shoot them. I ain't talking about taking it left field, but just a thought. So, what I'm going to start doing, and is recorded on YouTube, I'm going to start working on my cake baking game. I'm gonna tell you, maybe that's something that I have to sacrifice into. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna work on it. And we got people who cook food. They're good at this. So y'all gonna have to be my taste testers. Get ready to be honest with your pastor. Get ready to be honest. Pastor, why this cake salty? But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I'm feeling compelled by what we're looking at, and I pray that our Bible studies compel you in the same way. Maybe this is something that's gonna not only show her honor, but also move me to a new place. You get it? A simple thing like that could be something that may be the thing that moved me to a new place. All right. Okay. Okay. Great. Very salty cake. I wish I would. Um, let's see. Let's read from verse 16 to 21. Verse 16 to 21. You yourselves know how we lived in Egypt and how we passed through the countries on the way here. You saw among them detestable images of idols, of wood and stone, of silver and gold. Make sure there's no man or woman, clan or tribe among you today whose heart turns away from the Lord, excuse me, from the Lord our God to go and worship the gods of those nations. Make sure there is no root among you that produces such bitter poison. Pay attention to that. Such bitter poison that produces such bitter poison. Verse 19. With such a person, when such a person hears the words of this oath and they invoke a blessing on themselves, thinking I will be safe, even though I persist in going my own way, they will bring disaster on the watered land as well as the dry. The Lord will never be willing to forgive them. That's strong. Verse 20, the Lord will never be willing to forgive them. His wrath and zeal will burn against them. All the curses written in this book will fall on them, and the Lord will blot out their names from under heaven. The Lord will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for disaster according to all the curses of the covenant written in this book of the law, verse 21. And those curses, we read that last Friday, Bible study. That was in Deuteronomy 28. All right. So just something to reflect back on verse 18. Anything talking about produce the, what did it say? Produce the bitter poison? What did it say? Yes, produces such bitter poison. It's speaking about anything that could contaminate the covenant, the submission to the covenant. There's only one God. There's only one God. And so with the mentioning of the wood idols, stone, gold, and silver idols, and it's pointing to worshiping of these false gods and these things that have been made into God images, to be worshiped by people, to be acknowledged by people, that contaminates this covenant. Now it's going to get funky. There's a prophetic word that's also emerging from this, and its eyes are about to be open. It's going to get crazy. Oh my goodness. Eyes are about to be open. Now, when I say, and I'm saying it how I see it, how eyes are about to be open, there's going to be things that cannot be denied. It cannot be explained away, and it cannot be reasoned out. I did this because of this. I did this because we were this. There will be no reasoning. There will be no explanations on why we did this. Every eyes are about to be open to show just how much we didn't believe or receive. And so when people are doing things and they are saying that they are in this faith or calling themselves Christian or devout Christian or followers of Christ or saved by grace, but we're about to see and listen to me really, really good. Nobody is exempt from this word. Nobody is exempt from. Your eyes are about to be open to the areas of your lives, my life included, where I don't believe, where we don't believe, or we have not received. Our eyes are going to be open to the truth of the areas of our life where we have not believed and we have not received. But what we have done instead was explain it away. I did this because of that. I think God would be okay with me choosing this over that. The line has been drawn in the sand again. It's been drawn in the sand again. Who will be on the Lord's side? Are you doing this God's way, or are you doing it your way, or are you doing it the people's way or the person's way? There will not be an erection or worship of worshiping wood idols, stone idols, gold idols, or silver idols. The wood idols represent the promise of uh, production, of security. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But a thought just came to mind about how many people depend so heavily on people to do things for them, to the point where they worship not the person per se, but what the person can do for them. And so when you think about the stone, you think about the people. It's messing me up. The people who are so fixated not on what a person is to them regarding the heartfelt sentiment, but for as it represents the stone, the person who will be protecting them. I'm only with you for protection reasons. I know you won't let nobody get in my face. That's the only reason why I'm with you. I'm with you. Y'all remember what silver represents? Silver represents knowledge. I'm with you because you carry a prowess of wisdom. You are smart in so many circles. So I'm only with you because I'm looking to gain from how people perceive you through the wisdom that you have. And that's the only reason why I'm around you. The gold, the gold is the thing of wealth or prestige. You go in places, you take me places. So I'm going to be with you only so that I can be a part of you going places. I want to go places, so I'm going to be around the people who are going places. I don't want to be prestigious, so I'm going to be around the people who are prestigious. And those areas become methods of worship. What areas of our lives are we messing with that wood? Are we messing with that stone? Are we messing with that silver? And are we messing with that gold? Every eye is about to be open to the truth of just how much we believe God, or receive what God says over the wood, over the stone, over the gold, and over the silver. Pause, 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 pause. Selah. Selah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's look back at verse 19, because there was something else there in verse 19 too. When such a person hears the words of this oath and they invoke a blessing on themselves, thinking, I will be safe, even though I persist in going my own way, they will bring disaster on the watered land as well as the dry. And that watered land represents that place where miracles can happen, where production and success can happen. And the dry land represents the promise of stability. It represents the sure footing, sure ground, security. You bring devastation to those areas if you are willing to say Jesus Christ is Lord. I believe that everything that this man been talking about in this Bible study about what time it is, and all of that, I believe it. But I believe that I'm just going to have everything and not have to sacrifice, be consistent, or be obedient to get it. I believe that God has given all of us a skill set, our own mind, and our ability with our hands to get it done. And you're going to forsake the time of sacrifice, consistency, and obedience, and you're going to find out that all of that good stuff that you had, the skill set of your hands, your ability, your connections, all that stuff is going to end up failing, because God is drawing a line in the sand. He's drawing a line again, and he's like, who's on my side? In other words, who's doing it my way, or who's doing it their way, or who's doing it the way of the people. If you say that you are living by faith, that you're trusting God by faith through Christ Jesus, then do that. because now, as surely as this line is being drawn in the sand, as it were, you are going to find yourself doing all of this potentially successful work only to have it all devastated. It's not going to produce what it is that you expect or anticipated to produce. Why? Because you say out of one, I almost said out of one mouth, which would suggest you got two faces. Out of on one hand, you'll say that I have faith and I'm trusting in God and I'm living by faith and I'm doing this and that and the other thing by faith, but it's not doing things by faith if you're not doing what God told you to do. So it's not doing it God's way. You can't pick and choose what things you do God's way and what things you do your way or what things you do their way. You can't prioritize it that way. God is like, you're either going to do it my way or not at all. Anything that we do outside of God's way is it's not God's way. Is if God gives an instruction to do something today, right now, and you say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna wait till tonight or I'm gonna wait till tomorrow, you're not doing it God's way. You just ruled it out. There's so many people that will get a word from God to do something at a certain time, at a certain day, or a certain moment, and then they'll wait and still think they're being obedient to God. And when nothing happens, nothing works out, now they're confused and they want to say it's a false prophecy or a false teacher or something of the sort. And the truth of the matter is you still did it your own way because you found a way to prioritize something of yourself, even if it's being influenced or affected by somebody else, to be prioritized over what, when, and how God said to do it in the first place. Every eye is about to be open. And when I say every eye is about to be open to how much we didn't believe and how much we didn't receive, it means that we are about to be faced and confronted with areas of our own personal connection with God, our own faith walks with God, where we didn't believe and we didn't receive, and we will not be able to deny it, and we will not be able to have a word or an answer for it, a rationale, a reason why. There will be none of that to be applicable. The only thing that God will be looking for when our eyes become open, when we are faced and confronted with the areas where we did not believe and we did not receive, is forgive me, Lord, and I am in need of help to do it better. That's where we at with it. All right. So that was in verse 19. Now, in verse 20, where it says, the Lord will never be willing to forgive them. His wrath and zeal will burn against them. All the curses written in this book will fall on them, and the Lord will blot out their names from under heaven. That is a big deal. He said, the Lord will never forgive them, and his anger, his wrath will be zeal. That's passionate. That is like fired up, like it ain't going nowhere. But I also, as it translates to our day to day, I want to point this out, that remember that time when that was written in verse 20, there was no grace of Jesus yet. So go figure with all of the instructions and the things that they had to do at that time, because Jesus didn't show up yet. You see? All right, let's look at verse 21. The Lord will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for disaster, according to all the curses of the covenant written in this book of the law, that they will be singled out for disaster. They will be singled out for disaster. These represent, in our day to day, the people who are choosing to not submit to the order of things, the sacrifice, the consistency, the obedience. These people who cannot submit to the order of things, God's divine order for our last days, these last days. If you can't submit to the divine order of God in these last days, you can prepare yourself to be singled out for disaster. God is not going to cause all of the people to suffer because of your bad apple nature. You're not going to spoil all of us because you did something stupid. And get this, I'm not just talking about the people who don't know any better, the people who are babes, people who are growing in Christ. I'm talking about people who've been calling themselves seasoned and notoriety and recognized to be a force in our faith. I'm talking about them as well. You're about to be singled out for disaster if you cannot identify and stick to the call to the order. If you can't stick to the call of the order, and that is being consistent, obedient, and even willing to sacrifice when you feel like you have nothing. That also consists of going through that time successfully and reaching that place of everything, but still not having a heart to sacrifice, or maybe not a heart to worship, or not a heart to praise. And then you get to the point where this is all on me. This happened because of me. The blessing happened because of me. You get it? All right. Let's read on. Let's read on out. Verse 22 to 29. Your children who follow you in later generations and foreigners who come from distant lands will see the calamities that have fallen on the land and the diseases with which the Lord has afflicted it. The whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur, nothing planted, nothing sprouting, no vegetation growing on it. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in fierce anger. All the nations will ask, why has the Lord done this to this land? Why this fierce burning anger? And the answer will be, is because this people abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the covenant he made with them when he brought them out of Egypt. 26, they went off and worshiped other gods and bowed down to them, gods they did not know, gods he had not given them. Therefore the Lord's anger burned against this land, so that he brought on it all the curses written in this book. In furious anger and in great wrath, the Lord uprooted them from their land and thrust them into another land as it is now. Verse 29, the secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law. Now we're going to go through a moment of name calling here, and then we're going to continue on. All right. Okay. In verse 23, Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's put those two together. Sodom means burning or scorched. Again, another interesting detail. I don't know if I pointed this out before. Gomorrah meaning submersion. Submersion, or to be submerged. Now, y'all know what happened at Sodom and Gomorrah. Fire fell and burnt up everything. It was a submersion of fire. It was, things were being submersed in burning fire. Their names spoke their fate. Their names spoke their fate. It wasn't like, all right, Lot is going to go to this place and bring his family with him, and they're going to change the name of the place after the fire destroyed the place, and then call it Sodom and Gomorrah. It was called Sodom and Gomorrah before they got there. Their name spoke their fate. Sometimes, children, the handwriting is on the wall. Pay attention to the red flags. Their name is their fate. Their name is their fate. Do you really want to be connected or be around somebody whose name becomes their fate? In other words, sometimes the name ain't a physical name. Sometimes the name is that red flag. Sometimes it's that warning sign, that caution. that gut feeling that you get when I don't want to be here. Pay attention to those signs. Pay attention to those feelings. I rather pay attention to those signs and those feelings and be wrong and be out the way than to not pay attention to those signs and those feelings and be in the way and suffer as a result of the thing that I should have paid attention to. Sodom and Gomorrah's names spoke their fate. Admah. Admah means earth or ground. Zeboim means deer or gazelles. And because it more so translate to gazelles, it's more of that Serengeti African desert region is interesting to me. But anyway, in 23, again, I just want to read 23 again. Hold on. The whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur. And y'all know the rest. Nothing planted, no vegetation, so forth and so on. Could that, as it will translate into our day today, could that be something that is speaking? I want us to be prayerful about this because this is a big deal. Could it translate to like a nuclear or radioactive or some type of napalm or unextinguishable fire type of war aftermath? Y'all get that? Could that point to that? This thought, this idea, this concept of there being war aftermath in places that have never seen devastation like this. It could happen as a result of somebody being, get this, what we just read through, being removed for disaster, being removed from amongst the people who are submitting to the covenant, being removed for disaster. And then I just told you guys to pay attention to the red flags. New person shows up and nobody knows where they came from. They're keeping their head down. They're not making too much noise. They're not talking too much, but you get a red flag. You get a sensation there's something wrong here with this person. Could they be a person that's being removed from a group of people who are obeying God because they've been marked for devastation? I'll say it like this as well. Could a country disconnect themselves from another country or all the other countries that are looking to in some way unite themselves, work with each other, and one country decides they want to be independent of the other countries? Could they be separating themselves for disaster that could end in sulfur and salt, burnt, scorched earth where there is no vegetation? Let's pay attention. Let's be prayerful about the red flags. I'm going to move on. In verse 26, what other gods would a follower of Jesus worship today? Because verse 26 was talking about, it was warning against worshiping other gods, gods that people erect or, appoint for themselves. But as a follower of Jesus, a saved person, a Christian person, what other gods could you possibly worship? What other gods could you possibly worship? If you're on YouTube, you could type your answer, your response in the comment section. What other God could a Christian possibly worship? And I know some of you will probably get off on a tangent like, Christian ain't going to worship no other God. You done missed it. Just like that. Your other God, little God, self-proclaimed non-deity God that you would worship could be yourself. It could be that woman. It could be that man in your life. It could be that sex thing. Back in my day, we called it body worship. Kid you not, that's what they called it. Body worship. I don't know if they still use that term. But it could be that. It could be money. It could be security. Oh, other languages. It could be that security. It could be money. It could be a Christian. As a Christian, there are some other gods that we can worship. As a Christian, there are some other gods that y'all worshiping. And keep it a biscuit. All of us have moments where we have worshiped something else. Worshiping the pastor. Worshiping the pastor. Ain't that crazy? Pastor tell you to do something stupid. Ain't nowhere near the grace, the love of Jesus. Then you want to do it from an organizational, institutionalized standpoint. God ain't sanctioned it. God ain't blessed it. The Lord told me, daughter. The Lord told me, daughter, that I need to spend a private moment with you, to lay hands on you so that you can get the man of your dreams. Player. Nah. Some stuff, the writing's on the wall. What you say?
So I said it doesn't even have to be something stupid. It could be something that the person think is very positive, but that's not what God's telling you to do.
True that. True that. They can hit you with good ideas. Get you to do stuff that's good ideas. Good ideas are not God ideas. It may not be God ideas. Just because it's a good idea may not be that it's a God idea. It may not be a part of God's plan. Good point. All right. Now, in verse 29, this is where we're going to wrap it. Verse 29 says, what I have from, well, let's read verse 29. I'm sorry. Let's read verse 29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law. All right. When the secret things of God, when the secret things that God reveals belong to us, we become responsible for it. When the secret things that God reveals to us belongs to us, when that process happens, when he's saying, pointing out in 29, it belongs to us, it means that we're responsible for it. We're responsible for living it out. We're responsible for dedicating our time, our efforts, guess what? Our sacrifice, our consistency, and our obedience to it. We become responsible for it. Our success and failure is hinged on it belonging to us and how we are responsible for it. I believe that it's been an emergence of a lot of irresponsible Christians. It's been a lot of irresponsible. Let's keep it funky, shall we? Everybody here, if you had a humanistic experience, believer, new convert, you've been in this game, you've been in this for a while, you've been connected to God, you're a worshiper, you seasoned, you know how to talk to Jesus, and you know how to hear from the Lord. We all had moments where we were irresponsible. The dangerous thing when God reveals something to us and it belongs to us, thereby making us responsible for it. If we step out of line with it, somebody's going to get hurt. Maybe emotionally, mentally, maybe spiritually. Somebody's soul can be crushed. That church hurt thing happens. People stop seeking to get an understanding. Uh-oh. If you're not getting an understanding, guess what you won't be able to do? See or hear. If you don't get an understanding, you will not be able to see. You will not be able to hear. Let's put truth in the equation. If you never seek an understanding of the truth, you will never see the truth. You will never hear the truth. You won't know it when you see it. You won't know it when you hear it because you never sought an understanding of it. But when God reveals it, the secrets to us, the things that he has secrets of to us, we are responsible for it. Here's another tidbit. Therefore, especially in these last days, you have got to be careful with the things you know God has revealed to you, thereby making you responsible for it. There will be some stuff that God revealed to you that's only for you, for your lifestyle of worship, for your lifestyle of praise, for your lifestyle of study, that you are not supposed to share with other people because you will confuse other people because they are not you. They are not connected to God the way you are. So you cannot share stuff with other people that God maybe have shared with you. You can't teach it to other people because it's only for your own education and your own benefit and connection with God. It's not for other people. Be careful with that. The moment you share this stuff that you're not supposed to share with other people, that God reveals to you directly, thereby making you responsible for it. If it's only for you and you share it with somebody else, it becomes irrelevant. God will take the grace, the power, the authority away from it, and it will be just practice. It'd be something to do. And in the process, there would be something that goes haywire because now you're affecting somebody else's life. Woe unto those who causes these young ones to stray away from the faith, that will stray away from God, that will be confused about God. It will be better to have a millstone tied around their neck and they be cast into the sea. Be careful about what God tell you you can do. It may just be that you are allowed to do it and not for you to try to teach it like it's okay for everybody to do it. All right. That's all I have for tonight. I am grateful to the Lord for you guys that were able to join. Those of you who are going to catch the replay, prayerfully that this worked out for you, that you gained some good notes. Anybody that may have questions, comments, or concerns, anything like that, prayer requests, anything like that, you can put it in the comment section on YouTube. And even after we've gone live tonight, you catch the replay, you can still do it, and we'll get the message right away, and we'll respond accordingly. With that said, I want to just shout out to everybody again of who we is. We are Revelation of the Cross Ministries. And at the count three, we're going to sound off the way we do. 1, 2, 3.
ROC. Love you guys. Have a
So
good night.
in person on Sunday in Germantown. God bless you guys.
God bless.